Greetings, Judah. DFG, Gideon's Flight. Hey guys, I want to take a few moments and talk to you, my brothers, and any sisters who may have chosen to listen into this message. But primarily, I want to speak to you, my brothers. There are two particular verses of scripture that Elohim has placed on my heart over the last couple of days. And it's driving inside of me to bring this out, to share this with, my brothers, so that, my brothers who have come back home to Elohim, who have opened up their minds to the truth of who we are as the men of Elohim, that we might know and understand what is coming very soon. Right now there's a lot of concern around food shortages. Of course, this is all centered around the supply chain disruption. Truck drivers not working, essential workers, or people really up in any what you would consider manufacturing necessity businesses, for the most part, are either shorthanded, or the people are not showing up, for work, or in some instances, because something in their cognitive thought has caused them not to be able to see beyond what they're actually thinking at the moment. In essence, their spirit is now blinded them. And just to give you an idea, it's when Yeshua said they have eyes to see, but they could not see. Isaiah said that as well. Ears to hear, but they would not be able to hear. At least they see with their eyes, hear, and then they would understand. In other words, but he said that there would become a time that their understanding would be darkened. So that's what I mean by that statement that I just made. Many men and women understanding has been darkened. And no matter what gets said to them, no matter what becomes obviously clear to them, talking about with their eyes, whatever, again, gets spoken to them clearly, something that maybe they would have understood maybe a month ago. Well, take that back. Maybe something they would have understood 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that would have made perfect sense to them now, because what they have allowed into their bodies, they can't comprehend it anymore. In other words, even when they try to think that far out, they get nothing comes back to them but confusion, anxiety. They become disgusted. They become embittered or angry, and they just pretty much shut down all obvious information and pretty much just go with what they have known from their past, as though that past, is consistent to what they're seeing right here, right now, obviously in their presence, as though it's not happening. They won't even acknowledge that there are food shortages. They'll acknowledge that the plague is here. They'll acknowledge that. Diseases. They'll acknowledge that. Matter of fact, they will embrace that with open arms, because they think that by embracing that and cooperating with that somehow or another, that's going to save them, so that they're around to see what their brain has shut down, again, that which is obvious, and now they can only daydream about what the past was, and therefore they're living in the past, thinking that somehow living in the past is going to allow them to escape what's coming in the future. And I bring that out just so that we all clearly understand. Now, that's those who have allowed, the venom to be, allowed themselves to be inoculated with the venom. Now, you can figure that out. And then there's another group who haven't been inoculated with the venom, but they're ruhuk, something in their heart that causes them to love the things of this world, again, the lifestyles of their past, that they will do anything right now to pretend like nothing has changed. They'll create the scenario in their mind. They'll create the situation in their conversation. Although it's obvious that they are not living in the same times. The book said it will be like a time that never was before, talking about these end times. And the minute they hear me say the word end, that gets them frustrated. End. E-N-D. End. Because, they'll tell you that they know that they're going to die one day. But in all truth, they plan to live forever. Because again, there's something happening here that started right here. They closed their hearts off to the truth. And now, as the book says, when they hear the truth coming out of our mouths, they reject that truth. And then they formulate a concept of the past. And they project that concept of the past right now into their present. And they live off of that as though everything that's happening right now is consistent with what was happening then, and therefore they deny the very truth that's staring them right in the face. That group as well. Many of them are religious. Many of them believe in, I'm going to use that word Jesus and God. I mean, we know better now, and I asked Elohim to give me grace to say those words, Jesus and God. Because our book, and if you've been following this channel, I read to you recently, our book said we're not supposed to say the name of other gods. In other words, other Elohims. God is a name of another deity. Matter of fact, God is the name of any deity. Any deity can be called a god, including people, pastors, clergymen, priests, popes, whomever. He said that we're not supposed to use that, and that word God encompasses anything that they believe. And if you're using that, in your communication, then just remember that when you say that word God, that's shooting out, and all the gods of this world, not Elohim, all the gods of this world stop, and they turn to your voice. Who is that calling? And they will come to meet you. And many of them will give you exactly an illusion of what you think you want. They'll give you a version of it, but it's a corrupted version of it. You'll think you're getting love when you're getting lust. You'll think you're getting joy when you're getting pleasure. And I could go on and on with those type of comparisons, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to do that. And the same thing as it applies to the other God, Jesus. Jesus is not the son of Elohim. Jesus is a God. That's why many religions, if you talk, they say God and Jesus are the same person. Because Jesus is a God. And you need to know that, my sisters and brothers. Those of us who have come and opened up to the truth, and Elohim has blessed us because of our humble hearts, our willingness to open up, to hear. He has now revealed to us that God and Jesus are deities that were created by men to worship. And their worshiping of God and Jesus, they are falling into what we would call idolatry. And all the things that God and Jesus do for them is magic. Magic. The healing is magic. The answer of their prayers, magic. All a part of sorcery. If you had studied the book, and those of you who studied the book, you know that the God of this world, the gods, what a nest of this world, can do magic. They can do miracles. They can do wonders. That's why they're able to deceive people who think that they're talking to the one and only true Elohim. And so they're being deceived. And Yeshua even warned them. He said, be careful that you be not deceived. Yeshua, the one who they called Jesus, even told them to be careful that they did not be deceived. And you know who he told them not to be careful, who did not deceive them? Just as a reminder to you, my brothers and sisters, those of you who are listening. You know who Yeshua told the people in the last days? You know who he told? Matter of fact, let me go there real quick. Let's find out who Yeshua told the people not to be deceived by in the last days. Watch this. If you think that Jesus is not a deceptive God, then you tell me what Yeshua was trying to say here. The book of Matthew, the Basura, or the Gospel, however you want to call it, of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 4. As a matter of fact, let's look at verse 3. He says, his disciples came to him and said, tell us, what shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of your coming and the end of the world? The end of the world. And see, many times we're talking about the end of the world, and you'll be surprised how many people are listening to us or myself. When I say end of the world, they're looking at me like, what's your problem? Why you keep on talking about the end of the world? Well, I don't know. What was Yeshua's problem? What was the disciples' problem? Because they all seem to be pretty concerned about the end of the world. So now I'm telling you, I'm just repeating what they said. Because if you read all of 24, he'll tell you what were the signs of the end of the world so that the people would not be surprised. So we, this generation, would understand that we're at the end of the world. And our hearts would not be hardened towards the truth. We'd be open to that truth, and we'd be drawn to that truth. We would be drawn to those who could teach us how to navigate through the lies and the deceptions so that we would not be overcome with the issues and the cares of this world and falsehood of this world, including religion and religious beliefs and customs and traditions and rituals and ceremonies. But look what Yeshua told them they need to be concerned about. Okay, Matthew chapter 24, verse 4. That was verse 3 that I just read. He said, and Yeshua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man trick you or deceive you, mislead you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and shall deceive many. See, he said many will be coming to tell you that Jesus is the Messiah, that Jesus will save you, that Jesus is God, that Jesus this, and Jesus that. And he said, guess what? They will be deceivers. The very word is a false entity, Jesus. And he went on to say, for many shall come in my name. This is verse 5. For many shall come in my name. Whose name? Yeshua name, but calling him Jesus, saying, I am the Messiah, and they shall deceive many. And you shall hear wars. You shall hear of wars. Wars like the one that could very well happen between the Ukraine and Russia, or all the European nations. The war that could happen between China and Taiwan. The war that could happen between America and China. He said, you will hear of wars and rumors of war. He said, but be not troubled, but these things must come. But the end is not yet. Then he goes on to say, for nation shall rise against nation, kingdoms against kingdoms, and there shall be famine, food shortage. Pestilence means disease. Earthquakes, that mean earthquakes, volcanoes erupting, that means earthquakes on the land. That's hurricanes, that's tornadoes, that's nor'easters. You know, if you know in New England, you know what I'm talking about. And every other calamitous weather event. And he said that not only that, he said, when you see all that happen, he said, then know that the end is here. He said, then show, let me slow down. Verse 8. All these things are the beginnings of sorrow. And then this is what else he says. Then he goes on to say in verse 9, then they shall deliver you up. Who? All of us teachers, all of us messengers. Then they shall deliver you up to be afflicted. Means they're going to talk about us. They're going to be angry with us. They're going to reject what we have to say. They're going to set us up to be harmed. They're going to try to get our channels taken down. They're going to do everything in their power to afflict us. Everything. Who? The devils? No. Your brothers, your sisters, your lovers, your friends. The very people, the religious people, the Christians. Oh, yes. Because they're going to be deceived that Jesus gave them the permission to do the wickedness that they're doing under the guise of they have the grace or the mercy or the tolerance of Elohim to do it, which is a lie. But they're going to believe that lie. And I'm going to read one more verse over here. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and they shall kill you. And you're going to be hated by everybody, every ethnic group, for the name of Yeshua. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and they shall hate one another. So my brothers, I just gave you a quick, scenario of what is going to be happening to you if you are bold enough to take this message, share it, teach it, and most importantly, live by it. And what I mean by the message, I'm talking about the book, and right now I'm talking about it, particularly what I'm about to tell you. And your sisters, you heard what I just read. And interestingly enough, a lot of you sisters are offended by men like me. You see me as your enemy. And why is that? Because I tell you the truth, and that truth is inconvenient for you. You don't want to hear it. It makes you feel offended. He said you will be offended. It makes you feel like I'm trying to afflict you or limit you. Many will be afflicted. It causes you to hate, despise, and betray men like myself, because you don't want to deal with the time that we're living in right now. And I just want you to know that although you think that is you, you think that, that just means that, you're smart and you're intelligent and, and you don't have to believe what you don't want to believe, and everybody has their own opinion, and, just because it's written in the book don't make it true. All those things that you're thinking, some of those examples that I just gave you, Elohim knew that you would think that. That's why he wrote it. So, although it may be your individual thought, and you're entitled to your individual thought, in other words, your individual opinion, but that does not make it true. It just means that it's true to you. But remember, in that truth is your deception. Not me. I'm telling you what the book said. Brothers, same thing. Again, I always say, just read it for yourself. This thing talking about rumors of wars. We got wars going on all over the planet. It talks about, nation rising against nation. You tell me that you don't have all kind of conflict going on in Africa, Australia, England, France, South America, North America. I mean, all kind of conflict. When it says nation, it's not just talking about a country. It's talking about ethnic groups. It's talking about ethnicity. One group hating another group. You say, nation should rise up against nation. Amen? And then he talked about food shortages. It's called famine. Food shortages. I don't know, go to places like Venezuela and some of these other countries around the world if you don't believe it. Well, stick around in America for a while. You'll believe it right here. It's going to happen right here. Diseases. I mean, the disease, what we're dealing with right now is all over the planet. That's never happened before at the same time. There have been pockets of the planet. There was the plagues of Europe. There were the plagues of, smallpox here in the United States in the early 20th century. There have been outbreaks in different parts of the world. but never at the same time throughout the whole planet that all mankind were being ravaged with the same diseases. And then it talked about the earthquakes happening all over the place. What about the one that happened? They call it a volcano eruption underwater. But we hear 8 earthquakes in places that some places never had earthquakes before. It just means the earth is shaking. See, even the earth is warning you. Hatred. Hatred towards him. And then, last but not least, believing in whatever you want to believe in and justifying it by saying, hey, everybody's entitled to believe what they want to believe. That's what he said. There'll be many false Christs and many false prophets, and many people will believe the false Christ, and many people will believe the false teachers. Because why? Those false prophets and those false Christs will tell the people things that make them feel safe, things that make them feel secure, things that makes them feel encouraged, things that make them feel that there is no judgment in the land, things that make them feel that they have a great future, when the book says that's exactly not going to happen when this world ends, or right before the world ends. But they're going to find people who's going to tell them that. And some will just go into the book, and because you don't have the right understanding, or they don't have the right understanding, and they'll pick pieces out of it. You know what I'm saying? And just match up little pieces and make their own little book, to rationalize, to justify what it is that they want to do, despite of what the book is actually telling them they must do to be saved from the damnation to come. All of us as believers, it's time to open up your heart and just ask Elohim, just to be merciful. And what I mean by that, to say, Elohim, if I'm wrong, show me I'm wrong. Please show me I'm wrong. Because I don't want to see my family destroyed. I don't want to see my children's families destroyed. I don't want to be here when all of this, everything just caves in. I'm talking about all the wars and the murder and mayhem. I want you to spare me from that. That's something that you should be praying to Elohim to say, at least, Elohim, if I'm wrong, show me I'm wrong. Elohim, regardless of, what I might want for the future, if there's not going to be a future, show it to me. And show me what I have to do to prepare myself for the days to come. And show me what I must do to avoid all these things that you said would happen. And many of those things that you said are already happening. Teach me your ways so I can leave my old way of believing behind. Now, to me, brother, to me, sister, for the saving of your own soul, that's not too much to pray for. It doesn't seem to me that's too much to ask. I mean, that's just, to me, that's basic, rational, self-preservation thinking. We were born into this earth through the portal of our fathers, through our mothers. That same portal that brought us here, there's going to be an equal portal called death that's going to take us right back out. And a question that any logical mind, I'm talking about Not even common sense, because common sense isn't common. I'm talking about any logical thinking person. Reasonably intelligent, not smart, just reasonable intelligent, should at least consider what's going to happen to me when I die. Could I be thinking that when I die, I'm just going to go into nothingness, into the abyss, and I'll just be non-existent? Or because I was allowed to live, now I'm going to have to deal with judgment on how I lived. I mean, to me, that's just a rational question that every human being should ask themselves. You know, I encourage you to do it. Brothers, I encourage you to do it. If you're still struggling right now about what time it is, I encourage you to do it. If there's any sisters listening in and you're still struggling about what time it is, hoping that it's not the end time, hoping that you still have more time, I hope that you hear what I said and take some time to reflect on what I said. Go back and read Matthew, St. Matthew, what you call him. Go back and read it. Start at verse 24. Read verse 24. Chapter 24. And read all of 24. And then you tell me if I have it wrong. Then you tell me if I'm overstating it. Tell me if I'm saying that because of, anger or bitterness or trying to, demoralize you, marginalize you, stereotype you. Read it. And then when you read it, compare it to what you hear your brother saying, then go before Elohim and ask him to sort it out. See what happens. Because if you go one chapter over from 24 and you go to 25, talking about Matthew here, you go one chapter over from 24, you read all 24, and then when you go over to 25, you know what you're going to see over there? I'll just give you a little preview of 25. Here's what you're going to end up reading. Check this out. If you go to 25 and you go to verse 33, and I'm just going to read it right through it. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand and the goats on his left hand. Two different groups of people. Sheep, some people he's going to consider a sheep. Some people he's going to consider them goats. And he's going to separate the sheep from the goat. And then shall the king say, Elohim, unto them on his right hand, not Jesus, Elohim, say unto them on his right hand, come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundations of the world. Now, what he said from the very beginning, I had a special place for the believer. And let me correct myself. In this case, when he's talking about king, he's talking about Son of Man king. He really is talking about Yeshua, who's placed as a king, but not Almighty Elohim. He said, for when I was hungry, he said, you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty. Now remember, this comes after the end time. This is when you go out the other portal that we call death. I talked about the portal that came in, that all of us came through, that gave us life. And then there's another portal all of us are going to go through that is called death or eternity. When you get to eternity, you're going to hear these words spoken again. You're going to be in the audience. As a matter of fact, you are going to be the people. We are going to be the people he's going to be speaking to. He's going to say, when I was hungry, you gave me meat. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. I was a stranger, you took me in. Naked, you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Adonai, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and gave you drink? When did we see you a stranger and took you in, or naked and clothed you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and come unto help you or visit you? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Amen, I say unto you, insomuch as you have done it unto one of these, the least of my brethren, you have done it unto me. Interesting, Yeshua calls himself our brother. Now, everybody want to tell you that Jesus is God. Why is Yeshua? Jesus is God. But if they're talking about Yeshua, who is the proper name of our Messiah, why is our Messiah saying right here, saying, when you did it to the least of these, my brothers, you did it unto me? Why does he consider us his brother if he's our creator? Why is he calling us his brother if he is our creator? We all have brothers and sisters. We don't call our brothers and sisters mom and dad. We know the difference. You don't think Yeshua knew the difference as well? He called us brothers because he knows who his creator was and what his purpose was. And what was it? Let me remind you, to save the lost sheep, not the goats, the lost sheep of Israel. The 12 tribes, including us, Judah, Levi, and maybe a few others mixed among us. The so-called Negro, African American, whatever term, colored person, but not all colors. Not the world's colored person. I'm talking about the colored signs they had here in the 60s and time before when the fountain said white only and colored only. Talking about those colored people, the descendants of slaves, or foundational so-called black Americans. We, us, our people, not inclusive of the Asians and the other Latinos and other so-called colored people. Not talking about them. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about us. And he called us his brothers. And then verse 41, he says unto them, you get on my left hand. Amen. Then shall he say unto them on the left hand, depart from me, you cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. Now again, if you're listening to this channel, you're listening to this message, why are you offended when any one of the watchmen used the word everlasting fire, devils, and demons, which are really angels? I'm going to tell you why you're getting offended. Because you haven't taken out the time to study or read what I'm reading right out of the book yourself. Because see, if you were to do that, I'm not saying you would believe what you're reading, because many of you are not going to believe it regardless. But if you would read it, you wouldn't be in your feelings, or you wouldn't be angered or hateful towards us. Because you would just realize we're just reading to you what's in the book that you can read just like we're reading. We just happen to believe it, and you don't. And you will be okay with that. Because after all, you don't judge, and you don't want to be judged. So why are you hating us or judging us for something that you can read for yourself and understand easy? Hey, this is not DFG attacking me. He's just telling me what the book says. Therefore, I don't have no issue with DFG. If I do have an issue, I don't like what was written there. I don't like the fact that whoever Elohim whatever words Elohim put in Matthew's recollection or accounting of what went on, I don't appreciate that. That's what I'm mad about. I'm not mad at the messengers. I'm just mad at the message. See, if you were fair and just, that's how you would take it. But because you won't study, you won't read, you don't want to hear, so it's easy to hate the teachers. for doing what you refuse to do, although you could do it as well. Let me go on. So he said there's going to be a fire prepared for those people on the left, everlasting fire, which is what you heard me talk about, the lake of fire in Revelation 21:8. So I'm not making it, I'm just reading to you what it says. So if that's where you want to go, or believe you're going to go, or you don't think you're going to go, it ain't going to change what's prophesied to happen just because you don't believe it. Just because you don't think it's going to happen to you. You can refuse the narrative by sticking your head in the sand, but it ain't going to change the outcome. In the streets, when someone goes out there and they commit a violent crime, and then someone wants to get revenge, you know what they say? There's a bullet out there that got your name on it. Now, just because you say, well, I don't care about it, doesn't mean that bullet out there that got your name on it. In other words, they got a contract that don't mean that bullet ain't going to find you. You can deny it all you want. But if there's a bullet with your name on it, you'll get it. If the scripture said that this is going to be how your life will end, when you go through that portal they call death, it's going to happen. And you don't have to agree with it. You don't have to agree with it. This is what else it says. It says that, and this is what, he said, for when I was hungry, you gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you took me not in. Naked, and you clothed me not. Sick, and in prison, you visited me not. And then shall they answer unto him, saying, Adonai, when did we see you hunger, or thirsty, or stranger, naked, sick, or in prison, and did not minister unto you? There's a ministry that we all have. Some of us are using that ministry. In other words, using what Yah has given us to help the people of Elohim come into the knowledge of the truth and how to stay in that knowledge. And then there's some of us who are doing absolutely nothing but living our own lives, regardless of what the book says is expected of us or not. For the latter, this is what it's saying. He said, then shall he answer them, saying, I say unto you, insomuch as you did it not to one of the least of these, you did it unto me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into eternal life. Now that's the book. Just read it to you. I read to you Matthew warning us that we were in the time and what would happen. I read to you with Matthew saying that when the time ended, or your time ended, what you're going to hear as the final placement or the final destiny for your ability to have come into the portal of life, and based off of what you found here and what you did with what you found here, what's going to happen when you go to the portal of death into eternal life. Some to everlasting life and some to everlasting punishment. And it's not that hard to see who's who. Now let me get to the rest of this message. And brothers, I'm back to you. We're in a time right now like no other time before. And, and I just want to remind you, my brothers, because some of you have families, you have children, you follow me, that you have responsibilities. Many of you have walked away from those responsibilities, for whatever your reasons were, and you need to come back. A lot of you are dealing with depression. I know that. A lot of you are dealing with suicidal thoughts, which is another word of self-hatred, not feeling good enough. And you think the answer is in, something in this world that you can find peace with. And I'm gonna tell you, brothers, there's no peace in any of this stuff. No peace. You can go get you a new PlayStation. You can go get you a brand new car, a house, get you 10 women. You ain't gonna find no peace in any of that. Momentary pleasure, momentary satisfaction, but I guarantee you it won't be long before you be looking for more. It's like the guy who plays, who plays Madden football. Well, I want Madden 2021, Madden 2022. And then before long, you're like, man, I can't wait for Madden 23 to come out because I'm tired of playing Madden 22. See what I mean? You're not going to find no happiness, brother, in anything that's built with the hands of man. You're not going to find happiness in any things that the gods of this world has set up to honor them. I'm talking about these holidays, these festivals, these rituals, these ceremonies, these, when I say I'm talking about fraternities, I'm talking about parades, I'm talking about, the world idea of what a wedding is. I'm talking about these secret societies. I'm talking about Freemasons. I'm talking about sororities. I'm talking about fraternities. I'm talking about, celebrating to the sun god on Sunday. I'm talking about, celebrating the horoscope, astronomy, anything. Those Marvel people, even being a fanatic with sports or fanatic with entertainment, being idolaters with athletic idols and musical idols, family idols, women idols, man idols, your wife idol, your husband idol, your children idol, anything that you have allowed to be put ahead of Elohim, anything that you're listening to that's not in alignment with what Elohim says, anything that you're practicing that's not permissible based off of what Elohim says, falls into that narrative that I just gave. And again, you can ignore the narrative by putting your head in the sand, pretending like, well, I see no evil, hear no evil, therefore I'm absorbed of the consequences of that evil. And I'm going to say to you, sister, I'm going to say to you, brother, you are self-deceiving. And you're going to find out when you go through the portal of death that you maybe should have reconsidered what your brother is saying to you. And maybe it's the time right now to change your disposition again. We're not talking about hatred here. Be clear. I'm not talking about hatred. Really, this is true love. Some of you brothers, I don't know you, from, I have no idea who you are. Same thing, you sisters. I have no idea you. I don't know nothing about your life. I don't know nothing about your journey. I don't know about your challenges. I don't know about what your fetishes are. I don't know what you believe or don't believe. I know none of that about probably 99.9% of you guys who are listening to this channel. But I still care enough about you to create this channel and bring forth this truth. Maybe you ought to consider that as you consider being angry or despiteful or judgmental towards me. I care enough for you to tell you the truth about your everlasting soul. And equally, I care about my own soul. But let's go. Psalms, the book of Psalms, 155. Back to you, my brothers, again. Sisters, if you're still listening, praise Yah for you. Listen in. And by the way, one of the things your brothers are going to try to do, and for you new subscribers, some of you may be inclined to go to some of my past videos. Let me say something to you. You're going to hear me using strong words over there. You're going to hear me be saying words that you're going to be like, boy, he got a potty mouth. And I will tell you that the Rahut, what was going on in my heart, in my mind at the time, in terms of getting the message across, getting the point across, I was led by what I was led to say and how I was led to say it. But this I will say, continue to follow, because my book tells me that if meat offends my brother, then I should not eat any meat in the presence of my brother or sister. What does that mean to me? That if some of the words are too strong and it cause offense, then I need to reconsider the frequency of using those words. Therefore, you're going to hear my communication as we move forward will be less and less of those kind of, what the world calls cuss words. Not saying that it won't come out here and there, but I am conscious of it. And guess what? If it's enough to keep you listening, to keep you learning, keep you, preparing, keep you teaching, then I can make that sacrifice. And that's all glory to Elohim, because that's what he's put in my mind. So just as a warning, if you want to go back and listen, go back and listen. But just understand, I get it. All right? It ain't about whether or not I agree with it or not. It's about if it's offensive and I could find other words, I'm going to respect that it's offensive, and I'm going to do my best to find other words as the Spirit gives me the utterance to do it. That's what I'm saying. Psalms 155. Praise you, Yahuwah, all the nations, and glorify him, and bless his name. Whose name? Yahuwah, his name, who rescued the soul of the elect from the hands of death. Who are the elect? Those of us who are in these last days who have turned back to him. Men, women, and children. That's the elect. The same ones, if you read Matthew, as your brother asks you to do, you'll hear Yeshua says that Elohim's going to shorten the days, because he's going to shorten the days for the elect's sake, because if he didn't shorten those days, even the elect amongst us would be destroyed. And for the elect's sake, he's going to shorten the days. In other words, the end is going to come even sooner than what many of us thought. The elect. Verse 2 again. Who rescued the soul of the elect from the hands of death. Same thing, Matthew 24. Again, the word is very consistent. And delivered his holy ones from destruction. That's the things that are befalling the earth that we're living and looking at right now, including war, famine, disease, abortions, transgenderism, transhumanism, artificial intelligence, so-called aliens, which are simply the fallen ones, the earth being polluted and poisoned, the air we breathe, all of the things that are destroying humankind, mankind, the beasts of the earth, the birds of the earth, the things of the field, everything that was created by the voice and the hands of Elohim. These times that we're in. Amen? And he goes on to say, who saved me from the nets of hell. You know what he mean by that? That I was in hell. I was in hell. Hell. H-E-L-L. Show. Hell. And there was a net over me. But he broke that net. He broke over some of the strands of the net that had us in hell. Many of us, brothers, myself included. Many of you sisters. But he broke that net, and we were able to escape the net of hell. That's why we became his elect. We all had our journeys. We've all had those moments of shame. We've all witnessed that shame. Even if we were children, witnessing it with our parents or witnessing it between one another. We've all had our shame. But Elohim said, I see you. I saw you. I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb, sister. And I knew you would have a heart for me. And I knew that the snares of hell would grab you early. But you know what? I had a plan of escape for you. And my plan of escape was the word and the messengers who will remind you of the word. In other words, his truth. His Torah. Our Torah. Again, his word. His righteousness. Let me read to you again. Psalms 155, verse 3. And he saved me from the nets of hell, and my soul from the pit that cannot be fathomed. He's saying that Elohim saved us. I can say it for myself. I don't know about you guys. But he said there were things that he saved me. He said, how he said that? Because, praise Yah, he saved my soul from the pit of things that cannot be fathomed. He said that was got such a wicked destiny for me. He said, if he had not come to my rescue, he said, DFG, you can't even fathom what was going to happen to you. You have no idea how terrible your life was going to be. How evil and horrific it was going to be. Like so many people are dealing with. Through slave trafficking, human trafficking, all kind of other things going on. Wars, diseases, things, starvation. You see, when it comes down to starvation, a lot of you guys and a lot of you gals, ladies, a lot of you men, a lot of you women, a lot of you men, you talking about what you want to do. I'm going to tell you something. You get hungry enough, you will do anything to eat. Now, we've been telling you to prep for a long time. We've been telling you to get into communities for a long time. In other words, with people who are prepping like you, who have things stored up, so y'all can have everything in common. And who can be with you, they can pray with you, they can strengthen you in the dark days that are coming, and that Elohim will be in the presence. He said, where there are 2 or 3 gathered in my name, he will be in our midst. He will be with us as a shield around us. He put a fiery gate around us. Just like the gate he had around Job, that Satan had to ask permission for Elohim to take that gate down. He said that same gate is going to be around those of my elect. So if you're the elect, you don't have to fear anything that I said. And if you're afraid, it's only because you reject what I'm saying. And that's on you, sister. That's on you, brother. Don't have to be like that. But unfortunately, according to the book, it's going to be like that. For most people. Except, again, for the elect. And he said, and some of you out here, sisters out here, we already talked about Isaiah chapter 3, Isaiah chapter 4. There's going to be things that are going to happen to some of you, so you can't even fathom it. You heard me, sister? There are some things that if you don't do something about your situation, I'm talking about really do something about your situation, there are things that are going to happen to you that you can't even fathom. Now, I know some of you sisters can be pretty goddamn creative. You guys have great imaginations. You guys are definitely good researchers. I call you sometimes nosy. And you can think. So I want you to think of the worst thing that can happen to you. Think about the worst thing that can happen to you. Maybe your children dying, your family getting murdered. Who knows? The worst thing. Raped, slaughtered, whatever. The worst thing. Think about the worst thing that can happen to you, my sister. Guess what? If you stay outside of that fence and you refuse to accept this truth, he said even your worst thought, that ain't even going. It's going to be worse than anything you can think. That's what the word fathom means. That you can't fathom. He said you cannot fathom it. He said no matter the thing you fear more than anything else, he said even it's going to be worse, even worse than that. Now you tell me rejecting the truth, rejecting Elohim is worth all that. It isn't. And brothers, the same thing to you. I know you bold as a lion and you gonna roar and you gonna do this and you gonna do that and you ain't gonna accept this and you ain't gonna accept that. Well, let me tell you something, my brother. You stay outside of that gate, oh yeah, you're gonna give in. Oh yeah, you're gonna give in. You're going to bow down. That's the old saying. You're going to bow down to the beast. You're going to give it up. I ain't going to give that up. You're going to give up something you can't even fathom, brother. What you would never believe you're going to give up, you're going to give up. Your worst nightmare, brother. And even that, it's going to be worse than. You're going to give it up. Whatever that is, you're going to give it up. But you don't have to. And the part of this message is not about what we're giving up, brothers and sisters. It's about what we're going to do to make sure that we're the elect. At least that's my purpose for this afternoon, evening, morning, depending on when you're listening to this message. Or night. He goes on. Psalm 155, verse 4. He said, because before my deliverance could go forth from before him, I was almost rent in two pieces by 2 wild beasts. But he sent his angel and shut up me from the gaping mouth. In other words, he put that fence around him. No weapon formed against him could prosper. If you're in the gate, no weapon formed against you is going to prosper. That's what I'm saying. Why don't you read it for yourself, sister? Go read Matthew 24. Read Matthew 25 for yourself. Then come back and read the book of Psalm 150. Read it for yourself. Then that way you don't have to be angry. You can keep on listening to us. Maybe at some point, you'll hear us. I'm talking about really hear us. And even you don't have to be, what's the point of being angry with us and all we're doing is trying to help? Just because you don't want to help doesn't mean we should shut up. Let those who want to help, let us keep talking to them. Maybe it's your sister. Maybe it's your brother who will want to help that you don't want. Maybe it's your son or your daughter that's going to want the help that you don't want. Maybe it's your mother or father that's going to want the help that you don't want. So why shut us down? If you're okay with whatever's going to happen to you going to happen, why are you okay for them to be destroyed? And then at the same time say they matter to you or you love them. If you want to die, why they got to die with you? You didn't lead them here. Now Elohim is using men and women like ourselves, to lead you here and them, as long as you don't allow your pride to shut it down. Brother, same thing. As long as you don't let your pride to shut it down. Maybe it's not for you, my brother. Maybe it's for your brother. Maybe it's for your grandchildren. But if you take this and do nothing with it, you have blood on your hands at judgment. Just saying to you. Same thing, you sisters. You'll be judged for not sharing it when you knew it and you heard it. But because you didn't agree with it, because you didn't feel like you had to, and you denied your family from it, then their blood is going to be on your hand, and they still are going to die. You're just going to get probably a double portion of what they're going to get. Amen? He said, rescue my life from destruction. Again, he sent his angel, and he shut up me from the gaping mouths, and rescued my life from destruction. And my soul shall glorify in him, and exalt him, because of all of his kindness, which he had done, and will do unto me. Now, if you need any explanation on why your brother feels like I feel, and why I'm doing what I'm doing, regardless of the naysayers, regardless of the people who don't want me to be talking about it, regardless of the friends and family that I will lose because of this, opportunities that I could potentially lose because of this. Here's why I do it. Let me say it to you again. That my soul shall glory in him and exalt him because of all of his kindness, which he has done to me and will continue to do for me. That's why I do it. I want his kindness. I'm grateful for all the things he's done for me. But I also want him to continue to do those kindness for me. Yes, that's what I ask of him. That's what I want of him. And I will exalt him. And I will glorify him to you on this channel. If that means I'm going to get his kindness, and if that means I'm showing him appreciation for his kindness of things he's done for me in my past, as well as for the kindness he will do for me in my future, if that means I have to glorify him and exalt him before you all, that's what I'm going to do. That is exactly what I'm going to do. I don't know about you. You all do what you want to do. You've heard me say it many, many times. But that's what I'm going to do. That's my plan. And I'm sticking with it. But hear me. One more last thing. One last thing. Go to the book of Habakkuk. Praise Yah, Habakkuk. Now, I just read to you, by the way, if you didn't write it down, Psalms 155. Praise Yah. Oh. Yeah, Psalms 155, verses 1 through 6. There's only 6 verses there. Not a lot to read. Amen? Now I'm going to read to you. I want to see something. Just be clear. Praise Yah. That's what I read to you. That's what I wanted to read to you too. Now I'm going to take you to Habakkuk, spelled H-B-H-A-B, Hab, A-K-A-K-U, K-U-K, Habakkuk. I'm sure I messed that up, but I tried. Anyway, and I'm going to read to you from verse 3, and I'm going to start reading to you at chapter 3, Habakkuk, verse 17 and 18. Just two verses. And I want you to think about everything you've heard me talk about for this last hour. Because see, this is going to bring it all together. Matthew 24, what I read from Matthew 25, what I read to you from Psalms 155, and what I'm reading to you from Habakkuk chapter 3, verse 17 and 18. It says here, it says, although the fig tree shall not blossom, it's talking about the end time, because this is a time of trouble. As a matter of fact, if I went to verse 16, he said, when I heard, my belly trembled, my lips quivered at the voice. Rottenness entered into my bones. That's called anxiety. And I trembled within myself, that I might rest in the day of trouble. See, that's what he said. This is what the elect saying. You know, that's why we do what we do, by the way. Why we glorify, why we exalt him, because we got an anxiety. We know something is coming. Brother, sister, if you can't feel that something is wrong, something is not normal, something is happening that you don't quite understand, but something, you feel it inside, then that should be enough for you to engage yourself. And if you don't feel any of that, then this message is not for you. This message is not going to help you. It's not going to help you. If you don't feel like I just described, you don't have any kind of anxiety or just nervousness, just don't seem right. You don't recognize that, you know, there's food shortages and hunger coming, and people are hating each other in some cases for no reason. You're talking about wars. You're talking about rumors of wars. I mean, all these things that are going on right now, technology, pushing of all kind of lifestyles. Many of these lifestyles go against the Most High. Idolatry everywhere you look. Everything trying to tell you not to believe when you really should believe. If you don't feel like that, then this message is not for you. I understand. I don't even have no problem with you. You have a problem with me, probably, but I don't have no problem with you. But whether you have a problem with me or not, quite frankly, I don't care. But do I love you enough to tell you the truth? Talking about as my brother, so that Elohim will not be telling me like Matthew 25 and 37, when those men are saying, well, when did I see my brother hungry and then give him something to eat, or thirsty and then give him something to drink, etc. See, he's going to say to me, you know, when you did all these things, the things that I'm currently doing and trying to do, hope to do, he's going to say you were doing that unto me. Unlike many of you who just going to reject all of this and just look out for yourself. Do you. Live your life. And not worry about what's going to happen when you go through that portal of death. You're going to take your chances on the other side. Well, then don't bother listen to any of this. I get it. I don't get it, but you have a right to it. All right? I don't get it, because why would you want to die when you can live? Amen? Anyway, let's go on to verse 17. He says, let's rest to verse 16. He said, and I trembled in myself that I might have rest in the day of trouble. When he comes unto the people, he will evade them with his troops. Russia, China, it's coming. Your enemies are already in America, and they're surrounding this country. They're coming. They're coming. Whether you believe it or not, you don't have to believe the narrative. How you say you can reject the narrative by sticking your head in the sand. In other words, I don't want to hear all that. I ain't listening to none of that. Doesn't matter. You're not going to change it from happening. You're just going to feel, when it does happen, you're probably going to feel like maybe I should have listened. That's what I think you're going to be feeling. That's what I think you're going to be when horror hits you. When the thing you fathom or could not fathom that would happen to you, your family, your loved ones, the things that matter in your life, when something happens so horrific that you could not have fathomed that will happen, then it's going to hit you. Maybe I should have took my hand out the sand, out the ground, and I should have considered the narrative. Verse 17. And although the fig tree shall not blossom, and brothers, this is what I'm saying to you. See, resources are going to dry up. Jobs are going to shut down. Again, food is going to run out. Water, things like that, drinking water anyway, is going to run out. A lot of things are going to get destroyed by fire, floods, earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes. A lot of things don't get lost. I'm just letting you know. And as all those things happen, this is why he wrote this, so that you would understand, my brother. And sisters, when it happens, that you don't turn your back on your men. Don't blame them for what they can't control. When they start shutting things down because of the next letter of the plague, and now they got to shut things down and there are no resources, don't blame him. Don't hold him accountable. Because the book says it's going to happen. What are you doing to prepare, sister? What are you doing working with your covering? The men in your life. What are you doing to work with them to store up things so when these things run out, y'all can live? What are you doing with him to purchase the things to protect the family so y'all can defend yourselves? That's what you need to be thinking about, not about what you're going to get and keep on getting, because I'm telling you, it's going to dry up. It's coming to an end. According to the book, it is coming to an end, and it's coming to an end soon. And you had better get that in your head, my sister. Brother, you better get that in your head. Your 6-figure job, your 7-figure job, your investment in Bitcoin, your cryptocurrency, your savings, all that stuff is not going to matter. It's coming to an end. And if you haven't stored up things to survive, as Elohim kissed that gate around you, then you have no one to blame but yourselves. We have no one to blame but ourselves when we were warned of this. But let me finish it up just so you know. Although the fig tree should not blossom, means a food shortage, neither shall the fruit be in the vines, means no fruit in the vines. I mean, we're going to run out of all vegetation. And the labor of the olive tree shall fail. So your fruits, your vegetables, according to the book, going to dry up. The fields of your, and fields shall yield no meat. Means all your meat products, they killing all them animals. That's why they're coming up with this artificial stuff. Notice that? You know, these meatless burgers and meatless patties. I forgot what they call them. That's why they're coming up with all this stuff. They know it's happening. So it's funny, the people who are controlling your lives, they know and they're preparing. But here it is, you still don't believe. The ones who are in power, who are creating all this imitation foods, they doing it because they know this stuff is drying up. Hell, some of them are killing the animals intentionally so that they can bring the end. They're killing the crop. They're paying farmers not to crop, not to plant food, not to harvest food. Paying them not to do it and making sure they don't get the soil, the grain and things they need to be able to grow their food, to feed their cattle. They're intentionally making sure that they can't get access to any of that stuff because they want this to happen. They have no choice, quite frankly. Elohim has given them a reprobated mind where they're working to their own destruction and they don't even know it. They're just going to do it because Elohim now has put the spirit of death into them like he did with Pharaoh. Pharaoh knew to stop chasing, but he couldn't stop chasing. That's why Elohim gave him a poisoned mind that he was doing the very thing that was going to kill him and his whole army. That's exactly what the world is doing right now. It's trying to kill the majority of its peoples because it feels like the earth can't take care of but so many. I think it's 500 million is their number. And so they got to do something with the rest of us. this is what you're reading about. This is what I'm reading to you about. Say the flock shall be cut off. Flock means sheep and goats. Anything that would be considered a flock. Birds, what do they call these, birds that you eat. Ducks, and we ain't supposed to eat no damn ducks. But peasants and things like that. Pheasants, not peasants, pheasants. All right? It said that's going to be cut off from the fold. And there shall be no herd in the stalls. In other words, no animals in the stalls to eat. Yet I will rejoice in Yahuwah. I will joy in Elohim of my Yahuwah. Yahuwah Adonai is my strength. He will make my feet like a hind's feet, and he will make me to walk upon the high places, to the chief singers on my string instrument. In other words, he's saying, when all these things start to happen, my sister, all these things happen, my brother, know the end is near, even at the very door. But remember that you and I, we, male, female, those of us who have come in, the elect, he said, when all that stuff happens, just understand that I'm going to give you feet like a hind feet. In other words, you're going to be swift. In other words, it's going to miss us. It's going to miss us. And you see, while the world is crying and screaming and suffering and in misery for all the things that are coming upon them, we're going to be in a heavenly place listening to string music coming from the heavens above. Praise Yah. Are you ready? And with this prayer, praise Yah. Yahuwah bless you. And Yahuwah guard you, protect you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you. And may Yahuwah be gracious unto you. Me too. And may Yahuwah lift up his countenance, his presence upon us. And may he give us peace with the assurance that as we come to the end, he will be there with us and guide us and protect us through his love for us because we loved him. Amen. DFG, talk to you later, my brothers and sisters. Bye now.